Let's move on to the next topic here, which is kind of basically along the same lines, but still, we mentioned the name, but we never really got into it. So, look, Dana White is out there saying never again. Remember, women will never compete in the UFC. Jones will never headline another UFC. There's plenty of them, right? But now he's saying Francis Ngannou will never fight in the UFC again, meaning we won't get to see Jones versus Ngannou. Now, we've kind of touched on this, right? Roundabout. But let me ask you this question directly. Does this fight even need to happen? Dan, Tom, what say you?
I think it does need to happen. Obviously, maybe some extreme couture bias, but I'm also a guy who's a fan of the old meritocracy and actual champion happening. So I absolutely believe it needs to happen. And I don't believe that word never. You're right, George. There is a lot of nevers. But one of the nevers that sticks up to me is you never come back from hitting a woman. Yet we have Slap League. Yet Jon Jones, who's had his fair share of hitting, multiple women, where they're talking about hit and run, cocktail waitresses, the mother of his own children, so bad they have to run and get the concierge for help. Here he is sitting atop the heavyweight throne. So you got both these guys, Dana himself, Mr. Never, 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 and Jon Jones as well, sitting on top their own prospective thrones. Not only that this Saturday, but they're both made jokes that made headlines, guys. They're joking about me. They're making puns about domestic abuse, saying Dana knows what it's like to make mistakes. So yeah, I definitely, especially in the world of the UFC, do not take the word never seriously. For that reason, I really hope, optimistically as a fan, and I believe as Jon Jones fans should be hoping, right? If they, again, no issue if you want to call him the GOAT, but I think that you're basing it off of prior work. I think that cherry picking a heavyweight guy who can't grapple and trains part-time and then calling out another essentially part-time fighter who's a full-time firefighter who's, probably blind in one eye, that we won't know till his career is done. I don't know how much that qualifies. I think Jones needs the Ngannou fight if what he truly wants is that undeniable greatness at heavyweight.
All right. Came in strong. I love it, Dan. Does this fight need to happen?
I think it does, man. You got to find out who the baddest man on the planet is. Never, ever say never in the UFC. And money is king, right? And that fight is all about money. Right now, with Jon Jones at the top, the heavyweight division has changed, right? It's only really made up of about 3 people, so long as Jon Jones is at the top. Because, yeah, Aspinall, good fighter. Curtis Blade, good fighter. But I don't know that the UFC wants to send Jon Jones out there with those names. It's just it's hard after all the money they probably made this weekend, all the money that they'll probably make off of Stipe Jones. It's just difficult to do that. And like Farah said, I don't even know that Jon would be really motivated to take those fights. So really, if Jon Jones keeps winning, that's the only thing that's going to be lurking in the background, right? Francis Ngannou. Regardless, if he goes to boxing and gets his butt kicked in boxing, it's not going to matter because we all are talking about mixed martial arts. He left as the king. People are going to want to see that fight, and it's all about money, man. And guess what? How many times, Dan, George, myself, we live 15 minutes away from this gigantic stadium that they just built here in Las Vegas. Are you telling me that if he beats Stipe Miocic, that people aren't going to say, let's fill that stadium up with Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones? And that thing will sell out, man. It's big business. The UFC would be stupid to walk away from that kind of money. I think eventually they do figure this out, and Francis Ngannou does come back.
I love it, man. Yeah, I've been picturing it forever. The walkouts at Allegiant Stadium. I said Diaz and McGregor could do it, or Jones and Ngannou could do it. That'd be tremendous. All right, Fada, how about you? Does this fight need to happen?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, a lot of people already consider Jon Jones the greatest of all time, but just the fact that Francis Ngannou didn't lose his title, he walked away, and he is the baddest man on the planet. It's an exciting matchup. Ngannou has the name. Obviously, Jon Jones has the name. Everything about it, just it needs to happen. I think it's a win-win-win situation for everybody. Hopefully, the UFC can get a deal done with Ngannou. I hope he just gets a boxing match booked real quick, just so we can timeline wise it can align. I don't know where Ngannou's head at is after you heard Dana say those comments about him not wanting the fight and whatnot, but I think they're going to come to an agreement eventually. I'd like to see that. I would have liked to see that happen right now. I don't know if they get an agreement done that soon. I don't think so. But if Jon Jones gets past Stipe Miocic, that is the fight to make. And I think it'll be a massive, I think it'll be one of those fights that we're going to talk about 20, 30 years from now, what could have been the fights that we would have loved to see that didn't happen. So hopefully we do end up seeing it happen.
Yeah, it has to happen. And just seeing those highlights, thank you, Cold Coffee, for throwing those in there. I mean, it's got me pumped up. No disrespect to Stipe Miocic. I also agree he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. His numbers show that. He's 1-1 against Ngannou. For those that just tuned in to the last ass whooping, don't forget Miocic beat him in 2018 or something like that. So they are 1-1. But boy, Dana said something the other day at the post-fight press conference. I think unless I misheard him, he was already anointing Jon Jones as the greatest heavyweight ever. And I'm like, man, listen, we'll give him GOAT. We'll give him Mount Rushmore. His place is secure there. Pound for pound fighter, him or Volkanovski. If you want to give him that, okay. Baddest man on the planet. If you want to say that, I don't know. I mean, Ngannou's still on this planet, but granted, he left, so he's not defending that. I don't know. But greatest heavyweight of all time, to just jump to that. Did you not see some of these KOs that Francis Ngannou had even before he got to be champ? See, that's the question that I'd like to see answered. And it needs to happen. I'm picturing all kinds of stuff. I picture Fury and Klitschko, those long walkouts. But it goes, how about WrestleMania 3 when they were coming in? What's it called? It looked like a chariot or something like that. Andre the Giant is being brought in. I was seeing Eric Nixon standing there like Bobby the Brain Heenan, bigger version, alpha version. And Andre the Giant is obviously Francis Ngannou, and they're being wheeled in. Oh, man, that fight has to happen. And Dana always says, give the fans what they want. So Dana, you got to swallow that never word and make this one happen. It's got to happen, guys. I got to do it. Early lean? Anybody? Early lean on that one?
Jones and Ngannou?
Yeah.
Man.
I did an article for Junkie Fantasy Fight Forecasting. If anyone wants to search that, and I'll just say, save the listeners here. My pick would be my pick would be the same, and that was Francis by KO.
Okay, goes.
Yeah, the problem is we're still in that same boat where we don't know a lot about Jon Jones at heavyweight, and that's what irks me. Yeah. So based off of that, I probably do have to go Francis Ngannou. Now, if you're asking me this question after he beats Stipe Miocic or dismantles him or however he wins, right? Maybe you get a different response from me, because now you'll have a Francis Ngannou who's not in the same boat Jon Jones was, but had kind of been away from a while, right? How much training has he been doing? Has he only been boxing? So it would be a different question then, but now I think I'd have to say Francis Ngannou.
All right. Fada, you have an early lean, or do you want to be Jones and I'll be Mike Bonner? You could just say next question.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to answer. It's hard to answer. Like I said, we didn't really see anything from that fight with Cyril Gane. We didn't at the same time, if you know what I mean. So I would have liked to see more in terms of Jones. Just that picture of him with that little bit of belly fat is just really weird for me to see. So I wanted to see if it was what his cardio was going to be like, pushing in those grappling exchanges. If someone was going to resist that grappling, what his cardio was going to be like, the striking exchanges, if he was going to look slower or not. We didn't see anything at all. So, I mean, for me as a fan or somebody that covers the sport, if we do see the Miocic fight and he gets past Miocic, then we see Ngannou, that would be the perfect build-up, in my opinion, just because people, as you can see in the comment section, a lot of people discrediting Cyril Gane. I'm not one of those people. I'm high on Cyril Gane, but a lot of people discrediting Cyril Gane. I don't know if they're in a way discrediting Jon Jones's win, but kind of implying that it didn't tell too much. So a win over Miocic, and if we do eventually see Ngannou, I think that's the perfect path, in my opinion, even if it plays out not the way people expected it to.